Hi, my name is Aindri.
And I'm Mahak.
And welcome to another episode of All About That Reef.
On today's episode, we are really lucky to be speaking to a high-level government official and sort of get a lot of really deep insights as to how the government functions. And to me, this was really interesting because even working in conservation, you come across all these sort of different government departments, and they seem to have very overlapping mandates and overlapping areas of work. So it's really hard to tease apart which governments are responsible for which spaces in the marine environment and sort of what is the work that we're doing. So I'm really excited to hear from our guest and sort of untangle this in my mind as well.
Yeah, I think it's important because I think we spoke to a few guests that also came on board and spoke about these regulations and legalizations and rules that we have, and they're all different to one another. And like what you said, there are so many different departments as well, handling different aspects of just the sea as a whole in the marine space. So yeah, I think it'll be really exciting, and I'm quite interested in what he has to say as well, because he's actually an academic and now
government official.
Which is,
and I think another interesting thing that comes up with this episode is that all of us we're really quick to blame the government, right? Like in everything, it's like, oh, why aren't they enforcing rules? Oh, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? But very rarely do we get to hear from them on what exactly is stopping them, or what are the hindrances they have. But also, very rarely do we turn it towards ourselves and look inside and see
exactly
what our role in this larger sphere is within the sort of work that the government is doing, right? And I guess if all of us were ideal citizens, then there would be very little also for them to be able to do. So it's really it's a relationship that we have, and I think this
and how it's important to collaborate with all of these entities. Shout out to Pass It On for sponsoring this episode.
And now we're back. Hi everyone. Today we have joining us Professor Terney Pradeep Kumara.
Hi, Professor Terney.
Hi, Henry.
Thank you so much for your time. We know you're a busy man.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your new appointment as the Director General of Coast Conservation and Coastal Resource Management
Department.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you and share some ideas with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. So we first thought we'll ask you what kind of roles and responsibilities you have in the department to get an idea of the work you do.
Okay. Coast Conservation and Coastal Resource Management Department comes under Ministry of Environment. So therefore, our main agency is Ministry of Environment. Then I have to answer my secretary, and then a minister and deputy minister.
Okay.
So in the field, my role, the Coast Conservation and Coastal Resources Department's role extends along the beaches around the country, from high water margin about 300 meters landward, the land strip around the country, and in the case of lagoons and estuaries, that the extent goes up to 2 kilometers. And in lagoons and estuaries, from the lagoon banks either side 100 meters comes under coastal CCD and CR, Coastal Resource Management Department's purview. That's my landward boundary. But my seaward boundary is from low water margin, low water level, low tidal margin to 2 kilometers seaward. So in real administration perspective, a piece of land and piece of waters, seas comes under my purview. So in this whole area, I manage development activities, conservation, management of resources, and again awareness and erosion control. Everything comes under me. Therefore, for the moment we are doing well, but the main issue I am facing is the erosion. With the climate change and everything, erosion has become a very serious issue. So we have to spend a lot, right? And again, pollution control, plastic polythene pollution, solid waste pollution. Second one, and again, unauthorized constructions along the beaches. So on the beach and on even revertments, on even those breakwaters, people are building. According to our law, according to our act, those are illegal. So removing them and again destroying them and again taking some legal actions are extremely difficult because some are very poor people So that's their only option, livelihood options. So it's kind of challenging, but I have to, on the other hand, I have to, as administrator, I have to implement laws, establish law and regulations, law and order in the country. So it's a kind of challenging and enjoying because we are into coastal protection, environment protection. So we do coral restoration, cleanups, and establishing marine parks or whatever. So that part is enjoyable. On the other hand, other part is really challenging.
Yeah.
But you have to do it.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate as sort of the DG of CCD. But also just to think a little bit, so Sri Lanka actually has a lot of different sort of departments and agencies that are responsible in the marine sector, right? Just off the top of my head, like you mentioned, there's the CCD, there's NARA, there's the Department of Wildlife Conservation, NACTA, there's also MIPA, which you were formerly the general manager of, and also within the other various departments, you've also played a role as a researcher or a consultant in sort of various points in your life. Could you just tell us a little bit about what these different agencies are and how their mandates differ from each other?
At present, we, as I told you, coast conservation, coast resource management, and MIPA comes under Ministry of Environment.
Okay.
So from MIPA, how MIPA varies from CCD in my department is that MIPA's and CCD's landward boundary is the same.
Okay.
But seaward boundary of MIPA extend up to EEZ.
Oh.
From coastline, it goes up to 200 nautical miles, 370 kilometers. So in the whole area, MIPA is mainly working on environment management, marine management, and even marine pollution control, because their major mandate is to control marine pollution. So since it covers a huge ocean area that comes, that's about 8 times larger than the land mass. So all the shipping lines, all the oil exploration, gas exploration, and even underwater sea marine mineral exploration comes under MIPA. But we also there. But our mandate after 2 kilometers, our mandate stops from there. But then it goes to MIPA. But in the area, the coastal area where we are working, both mandates are overlapping. But still, with the understanding, we do construction control, erosion comes under our purview. But MIPA in coastal areas, MIPA does pollution control, even for some extent environment protection. We also do the same. But with understanding, we are not fighting each other, but we work as a strategically, collaborate with MIPA. Yeah. That's how MIPA differ from CCD. And then it comes Wildlife Department of Wildlife Conservation. So when it comes to the all wildlife in the ocean, even fish comes under wildlife, but the edible fish and color fish goes under the mandate of Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries. But larger charismatic animals like turtles and dolphins, whales goes under their protection management goes under wildlife. But in the case of marine parks, marine sanctuary, for example, Pijan Island Marine Park, and again Reef Marine Sanctuary, and again we have Adams Bridge and Little Basses Evakari. So those, when they declare marine sanctuary or marine park, that whole purview goes under the main agency become Department of Wildlife. Even within that sanctuary, we can control construction and even pollution control comes under MIPA and even CCD. Again, we have some understanding, right? That is DWLC. Then comes NARA. So NARA is, NARA is not not a regulatory agency. It's a research arm of Ministry of Fisheries. So under Ministry of Fisheries, there are a number of agencies. Ministry of Fisheries, Department of Fisheries, NARA, NACDA, Sri Lanka Fishery Harbour Corporation, and even CNOR. These agencies comes under Ministry of Fisheries. So Department of Fisheries also come. NARA is a research arm of Ministry of Fisheries. So NARA's main mandate is to guide Ministry of Fisheries how to manage our fishery resources in fishery sector in the country. Therefore, they do research. They come because of consultancies. So that's their mandate. But they are not a regulatory agency like us. We are regulatory. MIPA, wildlife, we are regulating it. NARA is a research agency, right? NACDA comes under again Ministry of Fisheries. Again, their mandate is to develop aquaculture. In the case of our coastal and ocean, it's mariculture. Mariculture is aquaculture in the ocean, right? And again, development of those crab parks or whatever, shrimp farming, everything comes under NACDA, right? Then NACDA. Then again, we have UDA, Urban Development Authority, where we meet cities. Then UDA comes. And where we have municipalities, then those urban municipalities come. So, but whenever we share, there are overlaps. With understanding, we share our mandates and work in more collaborative way. Somehow we try to do the best for the investors or developers or people who conserve.
And the
communities. So ultimately we ensure that community is benefiting, country is benefiting. Therefore we are trying to balance between development plus conservation. Because conservation is not at current context, conservation is not the tool, it's a management. You have to manage, you have to use, right? Definitely. Therefore, even in the case of the mineral sands, we can't keep mineral sand for years and years and just protect everything, and because whereas other countries they're doing it, right? So we have to extract mineral sand, but in that case we have to go for all environmental sensitive and environmental feasible ways. There are ways, so therefore we can do that. Even underwater exploration, we can do that. So therefore we have to think in that way, because we can't keep treasures and wait for keeping our country poor, or but use our treasures in more meaningful way and develop the country. Right? So I am going to the second option.
And the more conservative.
More conservative, yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for explaining all of the departments, and I think even I had no idea but each.
I missed one thing, Coast Guard. Coast Guard and Navy. Navy is a defense agency. If there's any defense threat to the country, Navy can involve. Whereas Coast Guard is the police in the sea. So Coast Guard has all the civil power. So for example, to stop people doing dynamite fishing, spear fishing, and stop fishermen doing any illegal fishing activities, smuggling, drug smuggling, human, those that comes under Coast Guard. Therefore, in the country we have a special need to strengthen Coast Guard, because at the moment in Sri Lanka, Navy is taking over. Navy is more dominant. Coast Guard is not much visible, although it's not visible. So Coast Guard also comes there. Coast Guard is very simply is a police in the sea. So they also have a some stake there to keep law and order in the ocean.
Definitely.
Coast Guard is there. In the case of defense issues from other countries and regional issues, then Navy then get the Navy's responsibility. In the case of marine disasters, Navy is the first responder, because they are always in the sea. They do all the rescue work and do some controls. Then Navy has to hand over the whole mission to the Coast Guard and civil agencies later. Navy can do everything until the end. But they are the first responder. They have some job. So once they establish the situation, they have to hand over the situation to MIPA, Coast Guard, and other civil agencies. So that's how again we this mandate varies from agency to agency. That's how it gets.
For example, if there is a whale stranding, so obviously Coast Guard would find out first, I'm guessing.
If in the case of whale stranding, who detect it first can engage. Even you can engage.
Okay.
Right. For example, if you find a person dying on the road, whoever you are, you can just engage. It's a human. Since always Samma they have to engage. They can engage and support in the way. Then they can hand this real operation to the real agency, whether Navy or Coast Guard or Wildlife, whoever comes first. In the ocean case, Navy comes first because they are always there. Then Coast Guard. Then later Wildlife and others come.
But the main purview of it would be under the Department of Wildlife, because since it's a charismatic marine mammal species.
Ultimately, everything in whale stranding, everything goes under Wildlife.
Under Wildlife.
Okay. I mean, each of them have similar roles and responsibilities, but I guess it's good that everyone collaborates and works
at the end,
on all the projects together, because all of them overlap one or the other. So another question we had was, I mean, you were the professor of Ruhuna University and the professor in oceanography. So you have done a lot of research and wrote a lot of research papers as well. And now you are the DG. So what are your thoughts on bringing academia into policy making, and what are your thoughts on it? I mean,
I started my career as a training scientist at Department of Physiology at Faculty of Medicine. Drawing blood and taking nerve pulses. It was really boring for me. I'm an outgoing person. I want to go to ocean. Then I quit that job within 1 year time. Then I joined as a probation lecturer at Department of Fisheries. So actually, I'm from Marissa, so I had those marine touch from the very beginning. I started swimming with fishermen. I started looking at underwater using your mask, right? They trained me in a very hard way how to swim, right? It is not a training; it's a kind of torture. I almost died in the ocean while swimming.
Really?
Yeah. These friends, friends.
Yeah.
But somehow they rescued me. So that's how I started. My major at the moment is coral ecology. I'm a coral reef ecologist. My PhD is on coral reproduction in southern Sri Lanka. That's my PhD. And I now I work on lots of areas. Those blue economy, marine conservation,
Also, there's a lot of
policy,
microplastic research that
I'm the one of the persons who started microplastic research in Sri Lanka for the first time. Yeah, those touches I got from while traveling other countries and meeting people and attending meetings. I got this microplastic issue to my mind. And yes, when I was the head of the Department of Oceanography for 7 years. Then at that time I thought I know everything. I can do anything. I'm academic. I'm a fully fledged and fully versatile person. But then I got this post as a general manager MIPA. So within a couple of weeks time, I learned that there are two systems happening somewhere. I was a small piece in the bigger puzzle, thinking that I am a big person, right? But everything happened in another scale, regional, global, and in local scale. So that's the first thing I understood. We can preach a lot about theories and those phenomena, but when it comes to practical situation, it will never work. You should have some practical experience and some strategic thinking, because you are working with people. There's a humanitarian factor is also there. You can just ban spearfishing, but you have to understand how many fishing families, how many kids they are losing. You put them in hunger. So there's two different things happen, and in even funding level is a huge difference. So I know that working in these two areas, how to tackle, how to shift from this to other. But I think all the academics, I personally believe that they should have get this experience, and how these things happening in the real administrative system. Not only me, even you. So if you know the system, how they operate, and which level, and it's good for us to get good decisions. So once you know everything in a clear way, so you can take the most appropriate decisions for this situation. So with this understanding, I feel that I am, since my background is also from marines, from fishing village. With this current academic and this administrative experience, I know I can take more, most appropriate decisions for most of the things. That's why people like me.
And you understand the community.
Communities, how they think, they are heartbeat is really different from what we think. We can tell a lot, but how they suffer and
I think that's actually a really important point that you bring up, because like right now the way Sri Lanka works is there's sort of like a gap. You have people that are academics that are carrying out the research, but then oftentimes this research doesn't usually have like conservation outcomes, or if it does have conservation outcomes, it's really far removed from like the on the ground reality of what people need. And then you have on the other end, you have a lot of people that are in like sort of positions of power where they can put in laws, policies, and sort of take decisions, but a lot of these people have come from like a political background, or like so they don't have that academic background. They don't have the understanding of like what the data says, and sort of the need for like scientific data driven decision making, right? So I think in your position you have that unique experience, and you can bridge that gap really well, and I think that speaks to the sort of effectiveness of also the sort of initiatives and projects that you work on. But sort of going back a little bit to the idea of like just now you said like you can ban spearfishing, you can ban something else, but then these have effects on like real life like people, on like communities, and often they rely on these for their livelihoods, even with sort of the illegal constructions you were saying on the breakwater. So what do you think right now? There's a bunch of laws and different policies that Sri Lanka has. How effective do you think they are? And then also looking from the perspective of the community that you said, like why is there a specific reason that these laws aren't really put into practice as well?
Yeah, I think from my understanding we have enough laws. Right? We have enough. But the thing is implementation. We are not implementing very well. But on the other hand, those those illegal fishers, they are not innocent at all. They know everything. But they do it with a purpose, because there is easy money. Right? There are lots of gaps in our legal system, so they use it. Of course, there are some genuine people. They do it because of their poverty. Right? They had to do it without any option. Right? So and there are few, but others, they are well organized. They know that they have power, they have money, but they do it because it's easy money, right? And on the other hand, government from our side, we are not implementing the existing the tools in proper way. Earlier we had some political issues, some political powers, even gangsters. Though everything is very much connected, right? So we have to understand that situation. But what I think is that as scientists and managers and administrators, we have to get together, because they are very organized from their side. Those those racketeers, all they are very well organized. We are not organized, right? When we start doing a raid, when we plan it, they know that, because they throw money like nothing, right? So we are not organized, right? And somehow we have to stop all these illegal activities, because we have banned something for a reason, right? Not for us, but even they will benefit from those. For example, if we stop spearfishing, if we stop dynamiting, not us, they are the first beneficiaries, right? They are the people benefit from that for the first instance, right? So in that case, awareness is again matters. Some knows that, some don't know. So therefore, in this puzzle, there are lots of gaps are there. Right? That's why we have to sit and discuss administrators, policymakers, and even fishermen. Right? For example, when we take decision from Colombo and we send them to implementation, it will never work. It's a top down. So, bottom up is those, but bottom up is sometimes it not work. We have to come to some middle way. All sit and decide what to do. And those decisions are, those should be site specific. What you manage, how you manage a reef in down south cannot be directly used in Trincomalee east. So that is where your experience comes. Right? That's why I like even students, our undergraduates or graduates or whoever study. It should not be a book. He should not be a bookworm. He should go to the field and see, work with people, how they eat, how they behave, how they catch fish, how they protect things, how they this whatever they should learn, they should know. Then they can have a clear, very deep vision about what they are doing.
Definitely.
So that touch, it should be there. That touch we are missing from the school time. From the childhood, we try to become bookworms and all books and internet and everything. We are very much focused, but what is happening in the real ground is totally different, right? So it's not a single answer, but lots of things should be there. But if you are smart enough, people slowly picking up. But at the moment, what I see in our general society, our students are not taking that essence. So they still keep on techno kind of world and avoiding all this humanitarian touch and environmental touch they are missing. But when they come to the decision making level, so whatever the decisions they are taking will not really work at the ground. So that threat is there.
I think studying at a local university, I completely understand what you say. Like, although there are particular field visits that they organize, it is very beneficial, but I think there should be more of that. Because for a semester we had about 10 to 11 subjects and only one field visit. But it should be at least 3 subjects where you can focus on a few of the academics and also go on these field visits, understand people's minds and how they work and why they're doing what they're doing. And we actually had this conversation with a guest that came last time, and he's a free diver, but he was also, we brought the topic about spearfishing, and we've obviously brought it up here as well. So what he was saying was, when he goes out into the sea and comes back, he sees people still spearfishing. And one day he went on this boat ride and he saw this man asking for help to come back to sea, come back to land. And then he put him onto the boat and just questioned him, and he's like, "Oh, what were you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I was spearfishing." And then
it's open,
and then he's like, "No, I know it's illegal, but I mean, that's how I get food to the table to
Yeah.
my children.
Yeah.
So that is something that he also like brought up. He's like, yes, spearfishing is banned, but to what extent? Like, are they going to overlook people like this, or like, why is it banned? And like, I also like had this conversation with people where, for example, yes, you ban something, but you all don't understand like how much it would affect like a community or a livelihood, because they also have to put food on the table. So like, where do like, I mean, when it comes to like these departments and regulations and fines, like, yes, we can fine people who are doing it illegally, or like targeting like species that are endangered. But like, how does that work from a department's perspective, or like a government's perspective? Like, how does bans work in general?
Yeah, lots of bans are there. For example, there are a number of fish species banned. Even tambua, it's a red grouper, is banned. If you go to large supermarkets in Colombo, you can see them selling them in open. If you go to areas like Marissa or Kalpitia, if you walk along the beach, you can see them openly selling. It's a protected species, right? And if you go to areas like Marissa, turtles are protected animal.
Yes.
But Marissa and even Madhya down south Martha, they eat turtle. Not only they eat, even dogs eat turtles. During daytime we feed dogs. Tourists feed dogs. At night time they get to working as a team. They kill turtles. Within last I think 3 months time, they have killed 12 turtles.
Just to feed dogs.
No, the dogs are killing the
Dogs
turtles. The dogs are killing the
turtles.
turtles.
And they steal eggs.
Really?
And they eat them live. They take all the bubbles out, and turtles they start attacking their shoulders until the bones appear. They break, right? And so it's not banned something, right? But that is happening in our areas, right? But again, turtles are killed and eggs are taken, right? Spearfishing is happening, right? Even
Swimming with whales
is banned, is happening, right? They jump on the whales, right? Even in the whale watching industry, you have to keep some distance. For example, in the case of dolphin, you have to 50 meters. In a whale, 100 meters away. Even you can try some drones. It should be at least further up. You can't cross their paths. You have to go alongside with them. Lots of regulations are there, but sometimes they know that. All the whale watching boats, they know that. But still they are breaking their. It's a kind of a thrill for them to break the rules. Some people, but it's happening. But the issue is that those are not reported to the top level. Even if it's reported, we are not taking actions, right? So of course there are reasons for not taking actions, right? Not because of the thuggery and others, but the resources. So in the case of whale management, the Department of Wildlife, they should have a boat and train people. They should have people who can go out to the sea and work hard in the sea. Sea life is a bit different. It's not like working in a safari somewhere on the land. So they have to train people. So they have issue with manpower, issue with resources, issue with their communication system issues. So that's issue. So even though we have rules and regulations to control them or protect them, they are in a situation they can't apply those rules and whatever the tools they are in the field because of the lapses in the system.
I think sort of in the line of work that I do, sometimes there's need to interact with the DWC, and sort of in conversation with them, you sort of begin to realize that it's a larger systemic issue, because there are staffing shortages, and that's government mandated, because the government has put a hiring freeze since the beginning of COVID. So they're actually functioning at 40% capacity, and then when they need to obviously go do patrolling, so for that they need boats and they need staff that are able to sort of run these boats. But then sometimes when the boat breaks down, they have to go through these long tender processes, which actually take 6 to 9 months just to get a really small nut or something in the boat that needs to be fixed. So for that entire time while you go through this bureaucratic process, that boat is out of commission. That means there's no patrolling that's being done. But also, so those are, I think, in terms of resources, and also a lot of technical capacity, I think, is lacking. But I also think that looking a little bit and sort of having interacted with some organizations, it also feels like at some point there's a lack of motivation or like a lack of understanding as to why they're doing this, like a lot of times, sometimes, you come across where like they don't actually go patrol, they just go park their boat somewhere and they can they can take a nice nap and then they can come back and say that they did patrolling, and all of that again falls down to like larger systemic issues. It's because like the country has such a high brain drain, right? Which means like the most sort of academically accomplished people are moving abroad for jobs. The people that are working currently in jobs get like really poor pay, so then the incentives for them is so little, so it's also easier for them, like it's like things like bribery and those all also then become a lot more motivating. So I think it's like such a large systemic issue, and we see it across so many different departments, and it really then just is affecting everyone, and it's degrading our ecosystems as a whole, and it's sort of really reducing like the sort of pristineness, the sort of like, and having the sustainability of our ecosystems, right?
And Mehek, you mentioned about brain draining.
Yes.
Right? So think how much money you pay for the government to train me. Not my brain, but how much money you put as a taxpayers to train me to this, come to this level, then I leave the country.
Yeah.
Not only my brain, how much money I am taking out from the country.
Yeah, that's
right? And then I am taken by New Zealand. We are a good country, right? How much, it's a free education for them. It's cheaper for them to take me, right? That's a strategy.
Yeah.
Right? We plant trees, and when
they're ready to bear fruit,
they take it.
Yeah.
Brain drain plus that one. We never think about that.
Yeah, I think.
And it's such a cost
for the country.
It's such a cost, and it's such an investment, and so I think there is this like large systemic issue that it is a little bit bleak, because when it's problems like this, it's really hard to see how do you move forward, or like really it seems like no matter, even if I take one step, there are like 5 other steps holding me back. But sort of disregarding that, if as your current role, and sort of seeing, it's really nice to see that someone at such a high level of management also recognizes that all these problems are there within the system itself. Like, how do you see the way forward? Like, do you think this is something that we can move forward from? Can we break away from this? Are these issues that we can address to sort of improve our conservation efforts across the country?
Yeah, if I go back to the basics, right? What's lacking is that we don't talk about your personal responsibility, my personal responsibility for the country, right? Yeah. So what should I do, right? That is not taught in our school curricula, and we are not teaching to our kids, right? What my social responsibility, right? So if we can understand our own social responsibilities, we will not break anything. We will be on queues, and we will not throw any garbage. We will not litter our roads, because we don't know our social responsibility, right? I asked the same question from number of school kids, or even some mature people. They don't know their social responsibility, right? So that is why they are doing it, right? So because we take everything from the system, we take everything from the society, but we are not paying anything back to the society. We are trying to gain, right? We have taught forget our duties and responsibilities. We talk about our rights. So therefore, all the people living in the coastline, they think that their right is their right to build their houses or whatever, hotels or whatever on the beach. Fishermen think that they have the right to take all the fish out, right? But they don't think that they have a duty to protect those fish for future generations, right? So that part is missing, right? So we missed everything from the childhood. There's no place to teach our kids about those social responsibility. So we think that parents will do that. They will never do that. They will always focusing on educating them with those maths and science and everything. And we think that at Sunday schools they would do that. Now Sunday schools are again into exams. We think that schools will do that. It will never happen. So we are producing kids and our next generation with lots of knowledge, but those those ethical lessons are missing. So that is why when they come to the real, when they have this real problem, or for example they don't have money, so they always go to easy picks, dynamiting, spearfishing, right, pollution, whatever. So that's another aspect we have to think about. We don't think about, we never talk about that openly, but that is also there.
Your duty to the nation.
Yeah.
But also just your duty to like nature or like
As a
anything
citizen,
really. Like it doesn't have to be to the nation.
And like even when like you as the DG of a really important department in this country, it's such a prestigious job. But like if you ask like at least half of the population what they want to do when they grow old, like or like what they where they want to work, they would all say like a private company or like an organization, but they'll never say I want to work at a government. Never. And it's such a prestige.
But if you ask the same question from rural areas, they will say I want to be a government servant. So even if you offer them very good jobs in private sector, they will work there for a couple of years, even with a high salary. But even as soon as they are offered with a low salary but government job, they quit. I don't know why.
Pension.
Yeah. So that
it's for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, actually the way we think differ from our rural areas to Colombo.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are not exposed to these areas. Right? Even in my case, I am from Matra, but I didn't have any idea about the shipping sector. Now what I know, right, in the shipping sector, the opportunities there, the income levels, how much dollars we can earn, opportunity. Only now I got to know that opportunities we are having. But when I was at
engineers,
I just want to become a doctor or maybe some high level, high ranked government officer.
Yeah.
So that opportunities is missing, right? That's why rural people, soon as they pass out from the school, they want to do somehow something government job, even as a janitor, whatever government job, right?
Yeah.
But the opportunities are there, right?
Sort of the sort of exposure and the opportunity cost of sort of different things. But sort of that was some, I think, valuable insights on like how at the end of the day it somehow comes back to like each person's mindset, their perspectives, and I think something that has come up quite a bit is that if you're someone who's been engaged with nature, who's sort of grown up in these spaces, we see that they tend to have more empathy for these spaces. They tend to be more aware and more conscious. And then that brings us back to the topic of like the field work that you were saying and like getting that applied experience. So it really does seem that the sort of like a strategy that is coming out is trying to improve environmental education in the country and also provide real like sort of on the ground experiences for people to
have. So if you want to get to the caliber like me, right? So you need experience.
Yeah.
I am in number of interview boards, interview panels, interviewing people, right? I never care about their degrees, how many degrees you are having. I check for their experience. As soon as I start talking with them, so I feel that at which level they are. So I want to get people with more experience. That's why I am always thinking about practical education, field visits, and talk with people, right? Talk with fishermen and do some fishing with them at least. Do some conservation work. So more you have that experience, more you become a very versatile and person with very assets.
A broader understanding.
So those people get better decisions, right? If you come with the 10 degrees, I never care, right? Because I know we are academically sound, but you are not good enough for an administrative position.
Yeah.
You are good for a teaching position. You can teach, but still you are lacking a lot.
Yeah.
You are missing the essence there.
Yeah. So we obviously are working on a lot of projects, but something that caught our interest and that you are currently working on with UNDP is the Marine Spatial Planning and the Marine Investment Plan project. I think it's a really interesting project that y'all are doing, and it's so beneficial for this country.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it and how you all plan to like enforce it or launch it.
So for the country, we have a Department of National Planning. Department of National Planning, they say we are the new bridges, new cities, new roads are coming, is there. They have a plan even for Trincomalee, for Matara, even for Colombo. They have a plan. But we are not working for the plan. It's another problem, right? We have there are people have very big plans, tourist areas, construction areas, industrial areas. We are not sticking to the plan, right? That's for the nation. That's for our land, national physical plan.
Okay.
Then for the ocean, there's another plan called marine spatial. We manage the space. We use space for everybody. For example, if you take Colombo, right? There are fishermen are there, ships are there, divers are there, right? Scientists are there, explorers are there, but they are all working in the same area. So overlaps and fights, right? So therefore, in the marine environment, what we do is in the marine spatial planning, we understand, we talk to each other, and we reserve some also this area for fishing, this area for shipping, this area for tourism, this area for conservation, right? This area for some other work, right? So we manage and we reserve some areas, and then that's called marine spatial plan. So marine spatial planning is a kind of it's a huge database because in GIS layers comes, fisheries area data, fish landing sites data, conservation area data, lots of huge data sets, mega data we are handling. So it's a kind of evolving process, right? All the stakeholders are there. It's a kind of academic plus practical process, right? Ultimately, we prepare some maps. When you for example, if you want to, if you are an investor, you are looking for a small lagoon with some mangroves, with no fishing. So you go to that website and you click whatever the aspects you are looking for. Then the website will generate a map for you. Okay, these are the areas good for you, right? So that's the essence of marine spatial planning. So in the marine spatial planning, it gives a space for everybody, right? So without marine spatial planning, what happened? And very little thing.
Yeah.
NAGDA, DWLC and others, they declared areas from first department. They declared this area as a mangrove protection protected areas. Then NAGDA came and they declared the same area as the crab city. So crab city you exploit. Forest department they want to protect. It's a completely different task and it's a big project and overlapping and confronting. So because of it came because of we didn't have a marine spatial plan for that area, right? So then when we have marine spatial planning, so for example, if we have an investor coming for tourism, so we can say, okay, these are the areas you can go. These are the areas with less conflicts. So don't go to this area because high conflicts are there. And we have another investor coming from another area in the country for blue carbon. Okay, so these are the marine parks, and you can go for this area. These are the area for you can invest on blue carbons. So what we do is we use marine spatial plan for marine investment plan. And marine spatial plan is the base. So on the base, we know what we are having. Then we invite investors to invest. Right? So that's how the marine spatial plan differ from the marine investment plan. But for the investment plan, marine spatial plan is the base. Right? We can get whoever. For example, if one person want to do some tuna farming, tuna culture. So he can, by looking at the marine spatial map, he can find the most suitable area for tuna farming, right? So he can avoid all the polluted areas, right? Water pollution areas, fecal pollution areas, he can avoid. So that is how we do, right? But at the moment, in marine spatial planning, all the agencies should work in one single umbrella, right? But other countries like China, they have a marine administration where all the agencies work in same administration. But here it's not. We work with Ministry of Environment, Fisheries Ministry, Ministry of Fisheries, Defence, another separate, right? Archaeology, another separate. So that essence is missing. Fundamentally, we are not we are not in a good position to implement that. But it's a need for the country have a marine spatial planning because we are looking. The country has a huge ocean area with huge ocean resources. There's an investment opportunities are there, and conservation opportunities also there. For that we should know at least what we are having. That's what we are doing with MSP. Then we can with the MSP we can it's another shoot of for marine investment plan. So that's the difference between MSP and investment plan. So we can get lots of investors. We can give them a better, very comfortable life. With marine investment plan, with a marine spatial planning. So without that, there will be lots of problems. Recently, a big hotel came to Panadura, And then Pananda municipality, they opposed because Pananda municipality had another program to the same area for recreation and other beach volleyball, football and others. And the hotel came established on the same. So without having, we have so investor went back. But we had to keep investors, we had to invite investors. So we had to, MSP gives a better opportunity for them to come freely and invest them without any hassle and bustles.
Including like even with conservation, there are so many NGOs and like companies that want to come and like fund so many projects, but even to like give them a list of the projects that we are currently working on, there is no information, and I'm glad like this is happening because it brings us so much of like exposure to like ways we can invest in like blue economy.
Yeah, I think the idea of consolidating everything in one space is definitely a move in the right direction. Just sort of also just thinking along those lines as this kind of different zonation happens and areas are designated. I'm also hoping that it's done in a way that's sort of data driven, so that ecologically
technical process anyway.
So that ecologically sensitive areas sort of remain protected and conserved. And then I think this is something that what I was thinking of as you were talking was the wind farm projects, right, that they're trying to develop in Manna. And Manna is, I think, one of the most ecologically important areas we have in the country, especially when you think about the bird migrations and the Central Asian flyway. But sort of, that's also the area that has the highest wind potential in the country and is also known as having the highest wind potential possibly across the world, which then means it has I'm hoping with the Marine Spatial Plan and Investment Plan, priority is given to conservation, because while economic development is of absolute importance, like trying to do economic development and just any kind of development with sort of nature in mind, I think is my personal opinion, is like the right way to move forward.
It should not be always conservation driven, right? Because for example, so if you stop those renewable energy, how much money you put on those other energy sources, and how much the damage you are doing, how much your carbon footprint is. It's long term, it's a lost for the country. If you think about carbon footprint, but still in Manna there are some pockets are there you can even use for everything. So in MSP and everything we make balance. We allow investors to even renewable energy investors come and invest here, but even still we allow birds migration parts we allow. Right?
They have added that data as well.
So we always try to make a balance, right? So if you always go to marine conservation oriented, so we are losing in the long run.
Yeah, because I think not necessarily conservation oriented, but sort of seeing them both hand in hand. That we talk about nature-based solutions and sort of sustainable development and sort of just making sure all of those factors are also taken into consideration.
That's why we are heading. That's what we are advocating.
Right? And like with like ecotourism coming in and things like that. And I just came up with this idea. I don't know whether it makes any sense, but when we were talking about bans and like spearfishing and whale watching and things like that, for example, like this is a very like short-term way of doing it, but like on this marine investment plan, we can promote like or marine spatial planning. When doing the data, we can only promote like whale watching boats or activities or dive centers that only do they're more eco-friendly or sustainable.
Like a certification process.
And they give them like a certification so that they have more prominence when it comes to even being on a website or being on like something, so that people will understand that, okay, I mean, we're doing something wrong and we're not getting any recognition for it, even from the government. And that would be an easy way for them to just like stop what they're doing and actually do it the more eco-friendly way.
MSP gives us a sort of idea about, the carrying capacity. It control. You can even using MSP, we can control something, right? So it's not. It's kind of completely scientific driven, science driven process, technologically driven process, right? Therefore, it's a very scientific for my understanding. So where it allows all the actors to work in the same arena, all are getting their own benefits, But at the end, it's a kind of win-win situation for all.
So just sort of just thinking along this. it's like a really sort of good way looking forward, I think. But sort of looking a little back to some of the previous conversations we were having, where we realized like there's a lot of regulatory and enforcement related issues. So is there a mechanism or anything that you all are looking at so that, you know, the marine spatial plan, like the zonations that you're creating, that those get enforced in the regulations? Because it's nice to have a lot of investment coming in and like have people invested in specific areas, but then how are we ensuring that, you know, they are sticking to the plan that we have if we already have a history of poor enforcement and regulation in the country?
Yeah, that's why we have, you know, those checks and balances are there. So in my case, I am always we promote investment, but we also promote, you know, the follow-ups. So we issue permits, and we are not what happened in the country, you know, so far. We issue permits and this chapter closed. We are not following it up. You can take a permit for 2-storied house. You can build a 10-storied house. Nobody will notice it.
Yeah.
But you know, nobody will come and check your permit.
Yeah.
So that's why we need those follow-ups, you know,
Yeah.
and keep records always, right? So then we can, because permit systems, those are there to control everything. But then if you don't do any follow-ups or any later, you know, checkups, it will never work. It will again go back to the same system, you know, loss of pollution, loss of, you know, encroachment or whatever. The follow-ups should be there, right? So that is why we are advocating for that. And in current legal system, we have lots of issues with our legal setup. Acts are very old. Issues are developing, evolving very at a very fast rate, and we are not, you know, developing or amending our acts, you know, tallying with those requirements.
Yeah.
And lots of rules are, you know, regulations are overlapping.
Yeah.
While we ensure a better environment for investors, we should have, you know, proper, well planned, very organized legal setup also. So we try to ensure better investment, but we are with the legal setup, we are still a bigger mess, right? Overlaps, and you can override my rules, I can override your rules, and those, so that should go hand in hand, right?
And also thinking along the lines of, like you mentioned, blue carbon development, but right now Sri Lanka doesn't actually have a climate change act. It doesn't have sort of policies in place on how carbon trading will look like. And I think those are things that are very relevant and very timely to work on now, just because of the sort of direction that we're heading in.
1 minute.
Yeah, no,
about the policies.
Yeah.
I have PDF copies for more than 90 policies on my computer. Policies, right? If you implement all these policies, Sri Lanka will be a heaven, right? So that is where the implementation comes. You know, we have to be very practical. You know.
Yeah.
So that is why we need people with understanding, right? With a future vision, with futuristic. You know, in next 10 years' time, how those issues would be, how the society would be, how the investors would be, how we can, you know, protect our environment in 10 years or 15 years' time. So that vision is needed. For that, that's what I always emphasize. We should have a proper experience for the people, right? Proper touch. We should come in, we should have feet on the ground, right? So lot to talk anyway, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think actually that brings us really nicely, because the question I was going to ask was, could you, for our audience listening here today, sort of give us a short message on how maybe they can sort of get more involved with coastal conservation efforts, or sort of what a role that they could play in sort of ensuring like the conservation of our marine ecosystems?
I think first they should develop their knowledge base, one thing. Then they should have a ample practical experience, ground level. They should know how people think. They should know how managers think. They should know how, you know, poor people think, right? That experience is needed. So that experience they can take while working with NGOs, so volunteering. So do go for that. Your academic qualifications are not enough, for my understanding, right? You need those sessions, you know. So if you want to build a, you know, very person with those, you know, those practical aspects and everything, that person should need that touch, ground level touch, you know. He can think from the whole area, from top to bottom and bottom to top, everything he can think, then he can take decisions. Therefore, I really prefer that if our you know, our audience, they can learn and work in the field and get more experience, and then later to understand what is their social responsibility is, right? Then they will easily jump into the stream, and they will do what they want to do. They are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my final message for them, and that will ultimately make people with some understanding, people with some essence, and people with some qualities.
Yeah.
So we need quality people, not
And
people.
and to do more for the nation.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Of course.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time specifically,
And for all the insights you shared
yes,
with us.
and I think it's important for even like an organization to understand the different kinds of departments we have, and how if they want to work for a particular project, how they can get involved in different like sectors and things like that. I think this is really.
And those are the things I have never learned from somebody.
Yeah.
Everything came from my experience working with. I read what is Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, what the agencies, what their mandates.
Yeah.
I learned and I got everything from my experience.
Yeah.
Nobody taught me in a school or university. So that's the essence. That's the quality I need from the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
I think that was it was a really, really good talk, and I'm so glad we got you on board. So with that, I think we are going to end this conversation, and thank you for listening. See you on the next one. This podcast is a CreatorCast production.